Hello guys, welcome to my channel where stories filled with revenge, moral lessons and love are told. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more powerful tales that touch the heart and open the eyes. I never imagined that the happiest day of my life would turn into the cruelest performance staged against me by the very people who were supposed to protect me. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be my moment, a soft evening filled with laughter, blessings and anticipation of the vows I would be making to Daniel. The hotel ballroom was glowing with candlelight, ivory roses lined the tables, and the air buzzed with excitement. Everyone knew how long I had been planning this wedding. Every detail was deliberate down to my custom-designed wedding gown, stitched with delicate lace and crystal beads that shimmered under the lights. I thought the evening would be about us, about love, about promises sealed before family and God. But instead, it became the night when betrayal sat right across the table, grinning in my face. I was adjusting my veil for the rehearsal walk when the doors burst open. The chatter hushed instantly. My heart leapt, expecting Daniel to sweep in with some surprise, maybe a sweet note or flowers. But instead it was Clarissa, my sister. And she wasn't just walking in, she was flaunting herself, glowing in my gown. My gown. The very one I had hidden carefully, the one no one had seen except my tailor and myself. For a moment my mind blanked, as if my eyes had betrayed me. But no, it was her. Clarissa, twirling like a queen, arms linked with Daniel, my Daniel. A murmur spread through the room like wildfire. My throat went dry, and I felt the ground tilt. I managed to choke out her name. Clarissa? The way she looked at me, smug, unbothered, it was as if she had been waiting for this unveiling. Daniel squeezed her hand, his expression neither apologetic nor ashamed. Instead, it was as if they were proud of themselves. Then the final dagger came, not from Clarissa or Daniel, but from my own mother. Margaret's voice pierced the silence with that sharpness I knew too well. My, doesn't she look stunning? Honestly, Celeste, I have to admit Clarissa looks even better in white than you ever did. The room gasped. My own mother. She wasn't just condoning this. She was approving it, celebrating it. Her words cracked my heart open in ways I didn't know possible. I wanted to scream, to run, to demand an explanation, but my body refused to move. Clarissa stepped closer, brushing past me with that perfume she always wore, one that made me nauseous. I'm sorry you had to find out like this, she said, her lips curving into a smile that betrayed no remorse. Daniel and I were eloping. Tonight. We couldn't wait any longer. Daniel's voice followed, smooth as oil, dripping with arrogance. Celeste, I care for you, but Clarissa and I, we have something real. It wouldn't be right to keep pretending. Pretending? That's what my engagement was to him. Pretending? My chest burned, but no tears came. It was like my body knew that if I started crying, I would never stop. I glanced around the room, hoping anyone would speak for me, defend me, tell me this was wrong. But the silence was suffocating. My father sat frozen, torn between anger and helplessness, his lips pressed thin. Friends whispered, exchanging looks of pity, but none dared step into the battlefield Clarissa and Daniel had created. And my mother? She leaned back, her eyes glistening, proud as though she had orchestrated the entire show. The memories of my childhood surged unbidden. Margaret had always favored Clarissa. She was the pretty one, the charming one, the daughter who could do no wrong. I was the responsible one, the one who worked hard, the one who tried to please. But no matter what I did, I was always second. Now here she was again, not just taking my spotlight but ripping my dreams from me, and our mother applauded her for it. I forced my voice to rise above the pounding in my ears. You knew. I asked Margaret. My mother tilted her head, her expression cool, almost bored. Clarissa has always had a glow about her, darling. Men notice. If Daniel was going to stray, better it stayed in the family than with some stranger. Don't you think so? Her words echoed in my head like poison. She wasn't ashamed, she was justifying it. I turned to Clarissa. So you've been planning this all along? She didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned closer and whispered so only I could hear. For months. Every time you talked about him, every time you dreamed about this wedding, I was making sure I got him first. That was it. The final crack. My chest heaved, but I straightened, forcing myself to meet their eyes. If they thought I would collapse and beg, they didn't know me as well as they thought. Take the dress, I said slowly, each word tasting like fire. Take him. But remember, what starts in betrayal never ends in peace. Clarissa laughed softly, dismissively. Daniel shrugged, as though I were a discarded page in his story. My mother smirked, proud of her chosen daughter. But I stayed rooted, my anger wrapping around me like armor. Somewhere deep inside, even as my world was crumbling, a voice whispered, "This isn't the end. This is just the beginning." The rehearsal was over. The laughter, the joy, the hope, it all turned to ash. Guests began to slip away awkwardly, some avoiding my gaze, others squeezing my hand with silent sympathy. I could barely breathe, but I walked out of that hall with my head held high. My dress was gone, my fiancé was gone, my mother had chosen sides, but I still had my dignity. And dignity, I knew, was a seed. It would grow into something much greater. I didn't know then what I would uncover, what secrets were waiting to erupt like hidden fire. But as I stepped into the night, the city lights glaring down at me, I vowed one thing. They would regret ever thinking I was weak enough to be destroyed. The night after the rehearsal was a blur. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the silence in my apartment pressing in on me like a weight. Every detail of what had happened replayed in my mind, the way Clarissa spun in my gown, as though it had been hers all along. Daniel's smug expression, my mother's cruel approval. I wanted to scream until my voice broke, but I held it in. Instead, I listened to the hum of the city outside my window, promising myself that this would not be where my story ended. The betrayal had lit a fire inside me, and I knew I had to uncover who Daniel really was. Something about the way he spoke that night didn't sit right with me. His arrogance wasn't just confidence, it was practiced, as if he had said those same lines to other women before me. So I started digging. At first, I went through the obvious old emails, text messages, and social media accounts. And then a name popped up in his email correspondence. Elena Ruiz. The subject lines made my heart hammer: divorce papers, child support, urgent response needed. My hands trembled as I clicked through them. The messages told a story I had never imagined. Elena wasn't just some ex-girlfriend, she was his wife. His wife. They had a child together, a little girl named Sophia. For 8 months, Elena had been trying to serve him divorce papers. She begged him to send money for Sophia's medical care. And Daniel? He had ignored her, slipping from state to state, creating new lives with new women. I felt sick. Everything about him, the charming smile, the promises of forever, the way he told me I was the one, it was all a performance. I wasn't special. I was a mark. And Clarissa, smug and blind, had fallen for the same act. I didn't stop there. I reached out to Elena, unsure if she would even respond to me. To my surprise, she did within hours. Her voice on the phone was steady, but I could hear the weariness in it, the exhaustion of someone who had been fighting for far too long. "You're not the first," she told me bluntly. "And if your sister thinks she's the last, she's wrong." Her words sliced through me. Not the first. Not the only. How many others? That question was answered 2 days later, when Elena showed up in person at what was supposed to be the continuation of my wedding festivities. I hadn't told my family about what I discovered yet. I wanted them to see it with their own eyes. Elena walked into the room with confidence, holding a thick folder in her hands. And behind her, 2 uniformed officers followed. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Daniel was mid-sentence, laughing with Clarissa, when Elena's voice rang out. "Daniel Ruiz, you've run long enough." Every head turned. My heart raced, but I stayed quiet, watching the scene unfold. Clarissa frowned, confused, clinging tighter to his arm. "Who is she?" she whispered. Daniel froze. His charming mask slipped for the first time. He stammered, "Elena, this isn't," but Elena cut him off, her tone sharp. "Don't bother lying again. You're still legally married to me. You have a daughter who needs medical care. And you've evaded every responsibility. Tonight it ends." She handed the officers the paperwork, and before Daniel could protest, they stepped forward. Gasps filled the room. Clarissa stumbled back, her face paling. My mother stood, her voice shrill. "This is absurd. You must have the wrong man." but the officer's voice was steady. "Ma'am, we have a warrant. Daniel Ruiz, you are under arrest for failure to pay child support, crossing state lines to avoid financial obligations, and identity fraud." The words felt like justice echoing through the air. Daniel's face was drained of color. He tried to pull away, but the cuffs clicked around his wrists. "This is a mistake," he shouted, but no one believed him anymore. Elena turned to the room, her eyes sweeping over everyone. "He's conned at least 6 women across 4 states. Over $200,000. He promises love, drains their savings and disappears. I tried to warn some of you earlier, but I see now he has already spun his web." Clarissa covered her mouth, tears spilling down her face. She looked at Daniel as though seeing him for the first time. My mother, however, remained stiff, her lips pursed, still unwilling to admit the truth. "This is ridiculous," she hissed, but her voice lacked conviction. I finally spoke, my voice calm despite the storm raging inside me. "You thought you could humiliate me, Clarissa. You thought you won because you had him. But look at him now. Look at the man you chose over me." My sister's eyes flicked to mine, filled with regret, but I felt no sympathy. She had known what she was doing when she betrayed me. She had chosen her path. Elena stepped closer to me, placing a hand on my arm. "I'm sorry you had to go through this. You fooled me too. You fooled all of us." I nodded, grateful for her honesty. Her presence reminded me that I wasn't alone, that this betrayal wasn't a reflection of my worth. It was a reflection of Daniel's deceit. As the officers led him away in handcuffs, Daniel's voice broke, desperate now. "Clarissa, don't let them do this. Tell them we're in love." But Clarissa didn't move. She simply stared, frozen, the reality crashing down on her. The room was silent, heavy with the weight of truth. My father finally stood, his voice trembling but firm. "Enough. This family has turned a blind eye to favoritism and betrayal for too long. Tonight it ends." His words cut through the tension, though I could see the pain in his eyes. I breathed deeply, the air tasting of both sorrow and victory. The man who had shattered my heart was gone, exposed for what he truly was. But I knew this wasn't the end of the reckoning. Daniel was only part of the betrayal. The deeper wound still lay within my family, with Clarissa and with my mother. That storm was still coming, and I was ready to face it. The silence after Daniel was dragged away was unlike anything I had ever felt before. It wasn't a relief, not yet. It was the heavy quiet that settles after an earthquake, when you're standing in the rubble, too shocked to move, too broken to cry. My family sat in that silence with me, but their guilt and shame hung in the air so thick it almost felt like smoke choking us all. Clarissa was the first to break. She sank into a chair, her makeup streaking down her face, her hands clutching at the fabric of the gown that had once been mine. She looked like a queen stripped of her crown, her arrogance gone, replaced by trembling confusion. "I didn't know," she whispered, her voice so small it barely reached me. "Celeste, I didn't know he was married. I didn't know he had a child." I stared at her, waiting for the sting of sympathy, but it didn't come. My heart was too raw, too bruised to offer comfort. "You didn't care to know," I replied, my voice sharper than I intended. "You just wanted to take what was mine. And you did. You wanted him so badly that you didn't stop to question why he was so eager to betray me." Her shoulders slumped, tears dripping onto the beaded lace. For a moment I almost saw her as the sister I grew up with, the one who used to braid my hair, who held my hand when I was afraid of thunderstorms. But then Margaret's voice shattered that fragile memory. "Enough of this performance," my mother snapped, her tone laced with disdain. "Celeste, you should be thanking Clarissa. Better you found out now than after the wedding. You've been spared a life with a liar." Her words lit a fire in me, a blaze so strong it scorched every trace of hesitation left in my chest. I turned to face her fully, my body trembling but my voice steady. "Spared? Is that what you call this? Watching my sister parade in my wedding dress, announcing she's eloping with the man I was supposed to marry while you applauded her? That wasn't sparing me, Mother. That was betrayal." My father's voice cut through, thick with years of suppressed frustration. "Margaret, stop." His hand slammed against the table, startling everyone. I had never seen him raise his voice like that. "You've done this for too long. You've pitted our daughters against each other since they were little. You always made Clarissa the favorite, the golden child, while Celeste had to scrape for every ounce of your approval. His eyes burned with regret as they turned to me, and I let it happen. I should have spoken sooner. Margaret scoffed, but I saw her mask slip. A flicker of doubt crossed her face. I only did what I thought was right. Men gravitate toward Clarissa. It's her gift. I wasn't going to fight nature. Nature. I repeated, the word bitter on my tongue. No, Mother. It wasn't nature. It was your choice. You chose her every time at my expense. And tonight proves it wasn't enough for her to have your love. She needed to steal mine too. Clarissa buried her face in her hands, sobbing. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she cried. I always wanted to be seen the way you were seen, Celeste. Everyone thought you were perfect, responsible, untouchable. I wanted something for myself. And Daniel, he made me feel like I mattered. Her confession twisted something inside me, but it didn't erase the betrayal. Clarissa, I said quietly, you didn't need to take what was mine to matter. But you did. And you can't undo that. It was then that Elena, still standing tall, spoke up. You both need to understand something. Daniel didn't love either of you. He doesn't love anyone. He only loves what he can take. He's been draining women dry for years, me, Maria Santos, Rebecca Chin, and others you'll never meet. He left me with a sick child in debt that nearly crushed me. And still, I held out hope he would change. But he never did. You can't blame yourselves for his lies, but you can hold yourselves accountable for the choices you made around them. The room fell silent again, her words heavy with truth. Even Margaret couldn't argue. She sat back in her chair, pale, her eyes fixed on the floor. For the first time, I saw uncertainty in her, cracks in the armor she wore so tightly. Then something unexpected happened. Clarissa looked at Elena, her swollen eyes filled with something I hadn't seen in years, humility. She pulled a small envelope from her purse and placed it on the table. I have about 4,000 saved. It isn't much, but if it helps Sophia, I want you to have it. Elena blinked, startled. Slowly, she reached out and took the envelope, her eyes softening. Thank you, she whispered. It won't erase what happened, but it will help. And that matters. It was a strange moment. A glimpse of grace in the middle of wreckage. My chest tightened. Not from pain this time, but from the fragile possibility that maybe, just maybe, something good could rise from all this ruin. Then Pastor Williams, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, finally spoke. His voice was calm, but it carried a weight that silenced even my mother. What happened tonight was devastating, he said, his eyes sweeping across us all. But sometimes God allows earthquakes to shake the foundations we've built on lies. What's left is painful to see. But it's also an opportunity to rebuild, not with favoritism, not with deceit, but with truth and love. His words lingered, pressing into the cracks in our family. My father reached for my hand across the table, his eyes wet. I'm sorry, Celeste. I should have protected you, should have stood against this long ago. Please forgive me. For the first time in years I felt seen by him. I squeezed his hand back, my throat too tight to speak. Clarissa looked up at me, her voice trembling. I know sorry isn't enough. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I need you to know. I was wrong. All of it. I was wrong. I studied her face, the sister who had once been my closest friend and later my sharpest rival. The wound she left on me would not heal overnight. But hearing her admit the truth cracked something open in me. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a path. A beginning. As the night ended, the officers returned with final paperwork, and Daniel was officially transferred into custody. I watched as he disappeared into the darkness, handcuffed and powerless for once. For the first time since the rehearsal disaster, I felt like I could breathe. Walking out of that hall, I knew things would never return to what they once were. My family was fractured, and trust would take years to rebuild, if it ever could. But I also knew that this betrayal had uncovered truths too long buried. No more illusions, no more favoritism, no more silence. And as I stepped into the night air, cool against my skin, I whispered to myself, I am not broken. I am rising. Moral lesson. Sometimes the deepest wounds don't come from strangers, but from the people closest to us. Betrayal by family can cut deeper than any blade, leaving scars that never fully fade. But scars are not signs of weakness, they are proof that we endured. In my story, I learned that love built on lies cannot last, and loyalty built on favoritism destroys more than it protects. Yet even in the ashes of broken trust, there is space for growth. The truth is painful, but it is also liberating. It forces us to see what we ignored, to speak what we swallowed, and to stand when others wanted us silenced. Betrayal can become the soil for strength if we choose to rise instead of sink. My family may never be the same, but the masks have fallen, and healing is slow, difficult, but real can finally begin. To anyone listening, remember this. Never measure your worth by the way others treat you. Their bet will also set you free. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below.